What does it mean to belong? Please take a moment to think about a place and a time when you felt you belonged. A time when you felt comfortable and welcomed. A time when you felt valued and important. A time when you felt accepted and connected to the people around you. Maybe you're thinking about yourself with your family, dinner on the table. Maybe you're thinking about a time where you were at work complaining with your colleagues. Maybe you're at a temple or mosque or church praying with your community. Perhaps you feel belonging right now, sitting here in this theater with like-minded peers. Or maybe not. Maybe you're thinking, what am I doing here? And who the heck are all these people? I thought I was coming here to see the play Hamilton.
That feeling, that sense that you're safe, that you're accepted, that your opinion counts, that you're missed when you're gone. That sense of belonging is essential to you living a healthy and happy life. For decades, psychologists have studied sense of belonging and have come to the conclusion that it is a fundamental human need. Not a luxury, not a want, a fundamental need, almost as compelling as food. Across cultures and continents, people seek out human connection, and it comes with huge benefits. When we feel we belong, we have a stronger sense of identity. We're more satisfied with life. We're healthier. We live longer. We recover from disease faster. On the flip side, when we don't feel we belong, when we're othered and marginalized, it harms us both mentally and physically. We're more susceptible to depression and mental illness and suicide. We live shorter, more stressful lives.
If I can get a little bit personal with you, I've been thinking a lot about this idea of belonging. Because recently, we welcomed a new baby into our home. You can say he's cute, or oohs and ahs, it's totally fine. Because I think that's the appropriate reaction. His name is actually Hamilton, so by the time you leave here, you can say you saw Hamilton here. We're hard at work trying to figure out how to support this new member of our family. I have a lot of good memories about how my mother made home a safe and welcoming place for me, how she made sure to be home when I got off the bus, how she created predictable routines, how I'd always have a space at the dining room table to do my homework. Now it's our turn to create a home for my son, a place where he belongs, a place that belongs to him. But soon, he'll get older, and it'll be time for him to go to school. And what then? Will he find the same sense of belonging at school? Will we find a family or a school that welcomes our family into the school family? Because over the last few years, as the family engagement specialist for the State Board of Education in Utah, I've had the chance to visit schools all over our state. I have met so many talented educators doing the work. I have also seen that in too many of our schools, we have a deficit of belonging. Families don't feel like they are welcome in our schools. They don't see themselves as part of the school system or community, especially families who don't fit the dominant culture. Families of color, Indigenous families, LGBTQ families, families experiencing poverty, families of immigrant and refugee backgrounds.
We know now that when students have a sense of belonging in school, they do better. They're more engaged, they're more motivated, they work harder, they achieve more, and they attend and graduate at higher rates. But how will students ever feel they belong in our schools when their families don't? And how can we expect families to engage with school when they're being told in subtle, everyday ways that they don't belong? When they don't feel valued or listened to? When their language or culture is invisible? We know from over a half century of work and research that family engagement and family-school collaboration are essential. to improving schools and teaching all students. And there are a lot of good ideas out there for how families and schools can collaborate. But those ideas fail when there is not a foundation of trust and communication, when bias and assumption gets in the way of listening and learning, when families are left out of school decision-making. In other words, when there is a deficit of belonging.
So, how do we make schools into spaces of belonging? In a way, it's no different from what we do in our own homes and families when we have a new baby or a new in-law, like my husband. Can you tell which one he is? The Samoan in a Haitian family. How do we integrate a new person into a family? Well, first, we welcome them in and make them feel at home. We treat them kindly and make sure they have what they need. We feed them. We prepare a space for them. Maybe we buy a crib for the new baby, or clean up a guest room, or make sure there are enough chairs at the dinner table. Over time, we build relationships with them. We learn about how they live and what they like, and we share ourselves with them, building trust and routines together. Finally, we integrate them into family decision-making. They help decide what to make for dinner, what shows to watch, or how we're going to spend our vacations together. None of this is easy. Families are complicated. Sometimes we don't get along with in-laws. Anybody? Okay. Sometimes we fight or make mistakes. But that doesn't mean we give up. We ask for forgiveness and we forgive. We reconnect because they're family now. It's not so different in our schools. With a wide range of experiences, expectations, cultures, language, and perspectives, every year we're welcoming new kinds of families into our school system. Utah is a state that attracts people from all over the world, and that growing community gives us strength. The challenge before us is to welcome them, all of them, into our family.
As the Utah Fellowship team, we've worked with our advisory board to design what we're calling the Belonging Schools Initiative. The Belonging Schools Initiative is based in a vision that all families will see schools as spaces of belonging. And we're using the word belonging here in two ways. On the one hand, belonging is about being a part of something. To belong at a school is to feel at home, to be accepted for who you are, to be among friends. At the same time, belonging is about ownership. Something belongs to me. Schools belong to families, and that comes with a right to a say in how they're run. Through our landscape assessment in Utah, we've identified 3 processes that can help build a culture of belonging in schools. The first one we call welcoming and valuing. It's about actively welcoming families into the school and communicating to them that they are valued and important parts of the school community. This needs to be part of everyone's job, from the front desk to the principal's office. The second process we call reciprocal learning. Reciprocal learning is about creating opportunities for families and educators to learn about one another and build relationships, to challenge the assumptions that we have about one another. Now, often this needs to take place outside of traditional parent-teacher meetings in order to interrupt those power imbalances that are so often present. And the third process we call impact. Impact is about making sure that when families do engage with schools, that they are listened to and taken into account. Families need to see the impact of their engagement, whatever form that engagement takes. Not only when they come in polite and calm and obsequious, but when they come in angry and frustrated and without all the information. When these 3 processes are put in place at all levels, from the small, everyday micro interactions between parents and teachers, up through the structures and policies of the school, a culture of belonging emerges.
Right now, we have an opportunity to shape the future of education across Utah. As I've traveled to schools around the state, I've seen the challenges and contradictions that we are working with. How diverse our state is becoming, yet how homogeneous it is in certain communities. How people think schools are working for most students when our most marginalized communities feel they are being left behind. how school staff think they are doing their best to work with all families, but families don't feel they're being reached out to. Fortunately, I have dozens of schools and districts across the state reaching out for help. School leaders and teachers know family engagement is important. They see the disconnects between families and schools and are eager for solutions. They are craving to see what good practices look like. In the midst of national forces pushing disbelonging, othering, and exclusion, this work has never been more necessary.
The Belonging Schools initiative is not about top-down control, although there are some important roles for state policymakers to play. We know that the hard work of family engagement needs to be carried out by families and educators in their own local context. The Belonging Schools initiative is about building a network of people and resources across the state. It's about highlighting success stories and real-world challenges. It's about piloting new efforts and sharing what works. It's about connecting so that nobody has to figure this out by themselves. And it's all driven by the voices and leadership of those most impacted, families and educators representing all the diversity of our state.
We can't do this alone, so we are extending an invitation. We're inviting districts and local education agencies to do a deeper dive into listening to their communities and building plans with rather than for families. We're inviting families and teachers to share their stories of what is working and not working in our Utah schools through our online resource hub. We're inviting researchers to help assess pilot projects and inviting policymakers and funders to create opportunities for bold experimentation. And we're inviting all stakeholders who are committed to this work to join us at the table. Organized parents, education advocates, tribal and local governments, K-12 and higher education. Help us guide the Belonging Schools initiative forward. Join us.